Uh, this is not financial advice. You dumbass.
Ooh, yeah, by Bitcoin, yeah.
Welcome to the Crypto Wag.
Anyway, I want to
Yeah.
talk about. I'll talk about something else.
Okay.
Something near and dear to my heart. Christmas lights.
Christmas lights.
I was hoping Carney would be like, "What the fuck, Christmas light?" Well, of course, you know where I'm going with this,
Mm-hmm.
but I hear all the time about the energy usage of Bitcoin, and that's like one of the common FUD things that they do right now, and it's ugh, just so tired of hearing about it. And that's all it is just uh,
But
Bitcoin does use a large amount of energy. Bitcoin uses about 110 terawatt a year. Anybody knows anything about energy or whatever. But what I'm going to do is like compare some stuff for you.
okay.
In just Christmas lights in the month of December in the United States uses a roughly about half to 60% of the power of Bitcoin, the energy that Bitcoin uses. And you don't see people throwing fits and kicking up and screaming, saying, "This must stop. We're destroying the planet."
What about the children, James?
What about the children? Over here, I can show you how much energy the banking system as it is right now sits, what it uses. This is how much energy that gold uses. Bitcoin uses less than half the energy that the initial banking system uses right now, and it uses less than half the energy of gold. And that's just the electrical means. You're not talking about the diesel engines or the
Carbon emissions
damage.
or
Yeah, the green, like the damage that it just does for like you're actually turning over the fucking land,
right.
you're scraping the planet, you're
Yeah.
ruining wildlife sanctuary, you're ruining trees, you're ruining you know what I mean. And then you got the
Ecosystem.
runoff from rainwater and all that, you know what I mean. All It's an extreme amount of damage. But regardless of what it is, like, if you could like put uh, an exact number and evaluation on what it does or how bad it is, no, you never hear of anybody complaining about it.
No.
I mean, and that doesn't just go away. Like the energy that it used, now that it's mined and it's on the surface and stuff, that doesn't mean that the game's over. It continue to use his energy, and they're like, "Well, how does that? What do you mean? How does it continue to use energy if it's just a rock sitting on the surface?" Well, that rock is traded. You know what I mean? It takes fossil fuels to move that rock from one spot to another. If you're trading derivatives or futures or any of that stuff, that's a massive amount of every day that same rock is traded over and over and over and over, and you know what I mean. It's just it's a constant thing that you get that's they're using for FUD, you know what I mean. And like, so this is just some other stuff that I brought up, you know what I mean. The electrical consumption of just YouTube, what, you know what I mean, the stuff that we use daily,
Right.
you know what I mean, it is over it's 21,000 terawatt, over 1% of global electricity. Bitcoin uses half of a percent. So YouTube uses twice the amount of energy that Bitcoin does. But I don't hear anybody complaining about the energy that YouTube consumes. And that's just YouTube. That's not Google. That's not, do you know all the
Right.
dryers in the United States use more energy than Bitcoin?
So maybe well, I just it's obviously not a problem, right? I get that from what you're saying. There's so many ways that we can hack to make it beneficial to our
Well,
society,
yeah,
right? Like using geothermal energy, like El Salvador says that they're going to do. Like there's so
Yeah.
many things we can do. Like we have solar farms popping up around here like crazy.
Well, I mean, what I'm trying to point at is like, and other things, like I said, the washers and just the dryers in the United States use more energy than Bitcoin. Another one that was video games, Xbox and PlayStation use more energy than the whole Bitcoin network does per year. I don't see anybody or even question it. You don't go to a monster truck rally and think, Jesus, look at the fossil fuel that's being used here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't go to how much energy was used making the Kardashians and people watching that TV show. You know what I mean? And now we're all dumber for having heard it. You know what I mean?
How much energy was expended watching
Yeah.
the Kardashians? Yeah. If you're
Yeah,
part of
I know I'm just picking on stuff now, but it's true. And what I want to point out and stuff is Bitcoin encourages renewable energy. And people are like, how does that, that don't make no sense, or how whatever, whatnot. Renewable energy and stuff like that from I'm kind of lost on my stuff here. Jack Dorsey was another one. This tweet particular interest to imply earlier with Elon Musk talking about how much energy, or how Bitcoin encourages renewable energy. This is just one example. Okay, now just bear with me. Through revenue associated with mine varieties, miners have the luxury and flexibility of being. Bitcoin is like the first time ever that you don't necessarily have to be married to a specific location to have that energy used in a centralized kind of way. You know what I mean? You got thousands of acres of desert and stuff like that. They're just empty and get a tremendous amount of sun. Or you could be in a very hydro friendly environment that is kind of once energy travels over a certain length, you start to lose that energy. And 2/3 of the world's energy is wasted. And Bitcoin is like a sponge that they can inject in certain areas to help sop up that wasted energy. And it actually helps with carbon emissions. Like here, according to a report, oil fields currently generate about 40% of the world's energy. However, they also frequently produce methane as a byproduct, whose greenhouse effects are 25 times as environmentally damaged as those of an equivalent quantity of carbon monoxide. Okay, Bitcoin mining offers a solution. Companies like Great American Mining, Upstream Data, Crucial Energy Systems are building infrastructure to capture this methane as a wellhead and use otherwise would be wasted gas that just goes into the air. You know what I mean? It's wasted gas that they could use to mine Bitcoin. And this means that oil producers can ensure a 24x reduction in emissions compared to just ventilating the methane in the atmosphere. Have you ever seen like videos of oil fields where you see like little
yeah. I briefly
spigots
worked,
of fire and stuff like that where they're burning off excess methane?
I briefly worked for an oil company. So yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
I saw it firsthand. Yeah.
Well, you know more than I do. And this gives these guys, it incentivizes them. They're like, well, we have all of this wasted energy, all this wasted gas. Why not, you know what I mean? Why not use that to mine the Bitcoin and get some sort of revenue for it? And it encourages that, and it reduces emissions.
Well, I'm sure this isn't the only thing either. Like, I used to work in the recycling industry. And while I kind of think the recycling industry by and large is a scam, and I can go into that later if somebody wants, but I love waste streams, and like we were always thinking of ways like we would talk about it. It's like, okay, so we're saving our number 5 through 7 plastics and nobody wants them. So we're ultimately throwing them away. What can we do with 5 through 7 plastics? Like there's got to be some way. I'm not saying necessarily 5 through 7 plastics, but to use your waste to be able to do something like this. So, and obviously
there are other ways that like the certain systems are financially incentivized to waste.
Yeah.
And I could give you an example with the mill that I used to work at. We remember, I think I spoke with you before about the trim saws. You used to have 5 foot, 7 foot, 6, all the odd lengths of lumber, you know what I mean? And you have, they're like, no. So if you had a like 2 or 3 inches of wane or no good wood on the end, you would chop 2 feet of that off.
Right.
And I used to, I bring that up and I'm like, we're wasting so much wood. Why do we do that? Why do we need to, why are we chopping 2 feet off or 3 inches? Why don't we just sell a 7 foot board or a 5 foot board? I don't know how many times throughout my carpentry, stuff that I've needed a 5 foot piece of whatever, I don't need a 6 foot piece. They're like, well, if they were going to buy, if they needed a 5 foot, they'll buy a 6 foot. They'll have to buy a 6 foot. And I mean, okay, so we are chopping the 2 feet off to get to the 6 foot, and they need a 5 foot. So now they got to chop another foot off. Right. It's incredibly wasteful, and it's all incentivized for money, financially incentivized. That's all.
Meanwhile, we have a lumber shortage, right? So
yeah,